AskReddit by Big 197,602. What is a scandal that should have been far bigger news than it was? Coal ash in Lake Norman area of NC. Duke Energy essentially caused cancer across the areas here, namely thyroid. My wife got thyroid cancer as well as many other people we know. Duke has continued to avoid unreal implications. Same with Chemours and DuPont dumping cancer-causing chemicals into the Cape Fear for years now. Scientology leader David Miscavige's wife has been missing since 2007. And the harassment Leah Remini has received for talking about it. The Secret Service mysteriously losing all their texts from the 6th of January. It was lost during a system upgrade. Yeah. That agency needs some house cleaning. This seems to have been totally overlooked by the 6th of January committee. The members of Congress who made fat bank in stocks with prior knowledge of COVID. It was in the news cycle for a day or two and seemed to have disappeared. Honestly, every time a congressperson ends up a multi-millionaire should be bigger news. These fucks are gaming the system and everybody should be outraged by it. Executives from financial institutions in the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis giving each other fat checks with the bailout money instead of getting jail time. The problem is that most of the stuff they did wasn't technically illegal. It definitely should be, but rich people basically write the laws in this country, so it's unlikely to happen. Chuck Grassley initiative to audit some mega churches was swept under the carpet. I would love to see some journalists investigating it. H equals 7% 20 external percent 20 links comma background, states percent 20 senate percent 20 committee percent 20 on percent 20 finance. I've never heard of this and it should be much more of a big deal. Copeland is the minister who owns 5 private planes and before the 2016 election said that Christians who didn't vote for Trump are going to be guilty of murder. Panama Papers. Deleted. Culture scientists getting caught, told to stop by Supreme Court, then not stopping, getting caught a second time, and never getting in actual trouble for the unethical experiments done to civilians without prior knowledge, nor compensation given to prior subjects for the effects of the experiments. For all we know, they never stopped and still are active today. Yeah, there's no way they would have completely stopped doing that stuff. They just hide it better. Several years ago there was the Libra scandal where banks were illegally manipulating interest rates. It was sort of complicated and not very sexy, so no one was interested. The problem is the Libra is an institutionalized market manipulation. What they did was against regulations, but the punishment was being barred from doing it again. Sub-postmaster in the UK being wrongly convicted of false accounting and theft because of errors in a computer system. The post office knew the system was at fault but still destroyed people's lives over it rather than admit there was a problem. Even when the issues were made public, the post office obstructed every step of the way. It is only since the first week of this year when a TV drama highlighted the issue that it is being taken seriously, and only this afternoon that the Prime Minister has announced measures to clear all those involved after this first being reported in 2009. The harassment and abuse these poor people received was so bad that one man actually committed suicide. Post office have blood on their hands. Edit, to correct Royal Mail to post office. All the people that got millions in COVID relief money. Tom Brady, MT Green, etc. To be fair, PPP fraud is being prosecuted. Maybe not well enough. Stock trading as congressional members. As someone who works for a financial service firm, where my investment options are so limited it's not really worth bothering. It annoys the hell out of me that politicians aren't held to the same standards in the name of conflict of interest. 215 bodies found behind a county jail in Mississippi. In an unmarked grave. County claimed they had no loved ones, but some were actually missing persons that police never notified the families of. Wonder why? This is current news though, isn't it? I just read an article yesterday about an attorney demanding a probe into the bodies being buried. Every single year when you look at stock trade history for us politicians and notice they average like 80% return on their investments. Nothing to see there, I'm sure. Elizabeth Warren says Congresspeople shouldn't own individual stocks. Vince McMahon being a total perv. Instead, he sells the company and now pulling a Scrooge McDuck. The whole Attitude Era was basically the writing on the wall for this. The conduct of NFL players. For example, Tyreek Hill beat his kid and ex, with no real consequence. Ray Rice got kicked out of the league, but the Baltimore Ravens still had Ray Rice Day. The guy is on video knocking his girlfriend unconscious. Big Ben has sexually assaulted multiple people. This is not acceptable. I used to be a huge football fan. The endless list of players, coaches, and staff doing terrible things with no consequences turned me away from it. I haven't watched pro ball in years and have mostly stopped watching college too. The people responsible for the biggest industrial tragedy of our times, Union Carbide gas leak, Bhopal, India, were allowed to go scot-free. All the government surveillance that Edward Snowden reported. It really disgusts me how many people simultaneously think Snowden should be locked up for life for exposing this, all while being outraged at the government surveillance and abuse of power. Agreeing that we should lock up people like Snowden is exactly how you make sure that the government will keep on getting away with violating all of our rights via mass surveillance, among other things. You have to stand up to protect the people who are calling them out on all the illegal stuff they are pulling, otherwise people won't keep calling them out when they continue to do stuff like this in the future. Or the ones that slipped by while people were paying attention to meaningless shit. My favorite example from personal experience is when the governor of NC suddenly got really concerned about where everyone was going to the bathroom instead of taking care of the massive toxic waste spill caused by the negligence of a company he worked for prior to his political career. For folks' clarity, this is referring to former NC Governor Pat McCrory, not current Governor Roy Cooper. Everything involving ultra-rich and or political figures. They just continue to get a free pass on all of it. Any sitting politician who gains massive wealth from it. I'm not an expert on it, but I think the seed wars that are fucking farmers over by big companies is pretty bad. Putting farmers out of business and hiking up the price of the only seeds people are allowed to on ice. Iran-Contra was big news at the time, but it's been essentially buried and forgotten today. A massive expose of the US government sending money to terrorists quickly degenerated into an Oliver North personality cult. That scandal, and its media coverage, was a huge eye-opener for young me regarding the phoniness of conservatism in America. I was thinking about this the other day, and it was the actual deep state some people claim exists today. This was a literal shadow government operating with its own budget with zero oversight. I think the problem is that it was too complex for the general public to understand. Tom Cruise is a high-ranking member of a cult that has destroyed thousands of lives, but nobody seems to care. In Kansas City, there was a pharmacist named Robert Courtney, https://en.wikipedia.org/Robert_Courtney_open bracket fraudster close bracket, who became a millionaire by intentionally diluting the doses of chemotherapy and cancer drugs. He was arrested in August of 2001 and it was a huge scandal, with thousands of patients affected. For about a month. Then 9/11 happened and his story was buried. He was sentenced to 30 years and is serving time in a federal prison right now. I mean, he's in prison. What more is there to talk about?